Hello, students. Today we are going to learn chapter 2, part 4. This is the last part of this chapter, that is Principles of Management Business Studies. Today we are going to discuss about Peore's Principles of Management. In part 3, we had studied about Taylor's Principles of Management. And in this part, we are going to discuss about Peore's Principles. Henry Fayol was a French management theorist, and he was very widely known, and all the activities of industrial undertaking, he said that it could be divided into technical, commercial, financial, accounting, and managerial. In short, he was the father of general management. He said that in a factory or in a business firm, every department can be divided on the basis of its technical functions, on the basis of commercial functions. Like, let's say, technical means we have production department, we have IT department, commercial, we have marketing, we have financial, we have finance department. So this way, he said that it can be divided among the various heads. He also suggested that qualities of a manager is very important, and he should possess all the qualities, like whether it is a physical quality or a moral, education, experience, expertise. He should have all the combination of qualities so that he can manage the workers or subordinates well. And thus, he acts as a main important link between the owner and the worker of the organization. For his contribution, he is also known as father of general management, and he gave 14 principles of management. Now let's study those 14 principles. Among those 14, the first one is division of work. Now the name itself suggests that according to him, he suggested that every task or every work should be divided on the basis of the ability, skill, knowledge, experience, and education of the person, that is the worker. So a trained specialist whose competence is required to perform each job, and thus he should be specialized into every activity. So he suggested that every work should be divided into small tasks, and those tasks should be performed by the person who are specialized into that area. According to Fayol, the intent of division of work is to produce more and better work. That is why in the last part, that is part 3, I was talking about 3 R's. That is right person at the right place at the right time, which means if I appoint an engineer and give him all the clerical jobs, neither he would be able to perform well, neither he will be satisfied with the work, because he is not the right person to do that job. So it's very important that the work should be given according to the ability and skill and knowledge and experience of the person. So that should be proper division of work. The second principle which he was talking about is authority and responsibility. This is very important when you are a manager of the company. Let's say, for example, if you are working in my company and I have given you the promotion or I have promoted you as a manager, but I have not given you any authority to take the decision, will you be happy to work? Or I have not given you any responsibility or decision making power, obviously you would not feel motivated. So it is very much important that authority should be given. Authority means right to give orders and take certain decisions. Managers require authority and responsibility. So if they don't perform this authority and responsibility well, then the organizational goals cannot be achieved. So once again, it is very important that this authority and responsibility has to be divided among the person, because one person alone cannot manage the whole organization. The third principle which he was talking about is discipline. Discipline is the obedience or the organizational rules or principles or procedures which every worker or every management level has to follow. According to Fayol, discipline requires good superiors at all levels, and there has to be fair agreement and the application of penalties. Like let's say, for example, that if worker in your company is continuously every day coming late, first day you just left that person saying that fine, no problem. Second day you did not punish. Now what will happen? There is no discipline in the organization. The worker would feel that I have been granted permission every time, so it is okay to be late. But if you impose certain penalties, then obviously he would abide by the rules and regulations of the company. So it is very important that there has to be discipline at all the level of work in the organization, be it any department, there has to be discipline. Next one is unity of command. Unity of command. Command means giving orders. If I'm your boss, for example, and you are about to report to me, that is, you have to report to me. Now, one more boss comes in, and you have to report to that boss also. So now you have two bosses to report. Whom will you listen to? Obviously, there would be a confusion. So this principle says that there has to be only one boss for every individual employee. If there are two bosses for one subordinate, there would be very much confusion, and it will be difficult for the organization to match the goal. So the principle of unity of command states that each individual has to have only one boss or one superior. The next principle is unity of direction. See, all the units of organization should be moving towards the same objective, be it any department, whether it is human resource department or a marketing department or finance department. So all the units should have only one goal, and that goal is organizational goal, which is to achieve growth, development, and profit, or let's say more production. So if all the departments are working with different objective in mind, then obviously the organizational goals will not be achieved. So all the unit of organization should be moving towards the same objective. All the departments should cooperate and coordinate with each other and perform all the activities. And that is why we can say that unity of command and unity of direction is different. Because in unity of command, there is dual subordination. And in unity of direction, it prevents overlapping of activities. Now, if we talk about unity of command, it affects the individual employee. That means if I have two bosses, ultimately only I'm going to suffer. So effect is going to be on individual employee. But if there is a problem in unity of direction, it would affect the entire organization. The next principle is subordination of individual interest to general interest. When we join a particular company, or when you start working, you join the company or you become a part of that organization with a motive in your mind that you want more salary, you want a good position, or you want to grow in your career. But your individual interest should match with the general interest of the organization. If your interest does not match with the organizational goals, then there is a creation of confusion, problem, and goals achieving would not be effective. Like let's say the interest of organization should take priority over the interest of individuals. In all the situations, the interest of the group or the company will supersede the interest of any one individual. This is so because larger interest of the workers and stakeholders are more important than interest of any one person. Now, this clearly states that if there are n number of people in the organization, of course, it's working for profit motive. Now, if you don't support the organizational goal, ultimately you cannot achieve your own goal, because only if organization is able to achieve profit, they'll be able to pay you better. So it's very important that individual interest should go with the general interest of the organization. Next is remuneration of employee. This is very, very important principle. Of course, why we all know remuneration means the salary or the incentives or the wages which is given to employee for the work. So the overall pay and compensation should be fair enough. Every employee should be paid fair wages according to their work so that they can have a better standard of living. Let's say I'm working for more than 8 hours, but then the payment which is given to me, the salary which is paid to me, it's not worth that 8 hours. Then obviously I'll be demotivated. I'll not feel like working. So it is very important that you have to satisfy your workers by paying them fair wages. Next one is centralization and decentralization. Let me give you an example of both the terms so that you understand. Centralization means in an organization, if there is managing director, all the departmental heads, that is finance departmental head, HR head, marketing head, and then we have all the subordinate supervisors, and then we have workers. Now, if let's say if this organization, in this organization, all the decisions are taken by only managing director, and everybody has to follow that decision for every activity, for every task, all the decisions are taken, decided by the managing director, and everybody has to follow. That is called centralization, which means decision is coming from one particular person to all the departments or all the workers in the organization. That is centralization. That is one person who's making decision. Now, decentralization means when this managing director gives the authority and responsibility and decision making power to various departmental heads. These various departmental heads give power of decision making to supervisors. Then this is called decentralization. Now, when the organization is too huge or all the big companies, they have to follow decentralization because single person alone cannot take care of the whole functioning of the business firm. Now moving on to the next one, that is scalar chain. As we can see in the diagram that A is the topmost authority. If any communication has to be passed on in the organization, it has to be from top to bottom. Like let's say, for example, if A is the deciding authority or if and he wants to pass on some information to E, then obviously he will directly not go to from A to E. He would ask his subordinate B to inform it to E. B will ask D. So this way the communication is passed on from one to another. Similarly, if the person is at the lower level, that is the worker, say F, if he has any problems or issues with regard to his work, he would obviously not go directly to the managing director. He would first go to his supervisor or to his head and discuss the problem, or let's say grievance redressal. Now, in this is called scalar chain. That is the flow of communication or flow of authority is from top to bottom. That is from managers to subordinates. This is known as a scalar chain. Next one is order. One of the best example for this is, I guess, Kaizen and Six Sigma. There are various companies who follow Kaizen and Six Sigma, which means that everything has to be in its place. This concept says that whenever any activity or any task is done at, let's say, lower level or assembly level or at a production level or even at the management level, a place for everything and everything in its place. That means everything has to be in order. If there is a fixed place for something, then it should be there. It should be present there. And there will be no hindrance in the activities because you know from where to pick that thing. This will lead to increased productivity and efficiency of the worker because he knows that this particular commodity or raw material would be lying in this rack because everything is placed in order. So it is very important that all the things, all the raw materials should be placed in order. The next principle as given by Fayol is equity. Equity means equality. There has to be equality when all the workers are working in your company, irrespective of their religion, language, caste, belief, or nationality. That means there should not be any bias or prejudice with regard to giving the rights of the worker. Fayol does not rule out the use of force sometimes, but rather he says that lazy personnel should be dealt with, with penalty to send a message that everyone is equal in the eyes of management. Just few minutes back, I gave you the example that if person is not given penalty and he takes things for granted, it should not be there. The person should realize that rules are equal for everyone, be it anyone, even if he is a manager, if he is doing any mistake or if he has done work wrongly, which is not according to the rules or regulations or policy of the company, then he should be given penalty. Stability of personnel. This is another important principle. Employee turnover is the biggest problem nowadays. Now, when we say employee turnover, it means that when employee leaves the organization soon. Let's say, for example, there is a company called XYZ, for example. In that company, whichever employee joins in, they leave the company within a year. Now, this is the biggest problem because employee turnover is fast. Employee turnover means when the employee leaves the company or leaves the job. Now, if employee turnover is too much, then by the time the person is trained, he leaves the organization. So it becomes difficult for the organization to find a new employee, train them again, educate them again with regard to their work or the culture. So there has to be stability of personnel or people or say worker. They should be stable and they should stay in the company for a longer period of time. Only then the best result would be shown. The next is initiative. Workers should be encouraged always. If some worker comes to me with a very good suggestion and without listening to them, I just shoo them away. Obviously, they would move out of the door with a ill feeling in the heart, or let's say they would get demotivated. But that should not be the case. Every worker should be encouraged to carry out their plan and you should welcome their suggestions. Initiative means taking the first step with self motivation. That is, it is thinking out and executing the plan. So it is one of the trait of intelligent person. A good company should have the employee suggestion system, and that is why in nowadays most of the organizations they believe in workers participation. Now workers participation means that those companies are allowing the participate in the decision making of the management in certain areas so that even they feel that they are part of the organization. So they are asked for the suggestion in certain decision making areas. The last principle is esprit de corps. Now management, of course, they should have a team spirit or unity. Any company which does not have unity or harmony among the employees, they are sure to fail. So it is very important that all the employees should work with harmony. They should cooperate with each other, and all the departments should coordinate with each other and work as a team. So manager's role is very important over here. A manager should replace I with we. That is, he should not think about himself, but he should think of his succeed. This will give rise to, have a mutual trust and belongingness among the team members. They would feel a part of the management, or they would feel that they are part of this family of organization. So this will minimize all the losses which can be caused. Now, if we compare the Taylor's contribution, we can see that Henry Fayol's perspective was mostly related to top level management, whereas Taylor's perspective was more towards the shop floor, shop factory production level work. Now, as I said, that Henry Fayol was a practitioner, whereas Taylor was a scientist. Fayol gave general theory of administration, that is, he was more into the practical experiences, whereas Taylor believed in the scientific management of working. I hope you must be clear now with this chapter of principles of management. Thank you very much.